I never thought the end of my marriage would begin with the smell of garlic bread and candle wax, but life has a cruel sense of irony. What would you do if you decided to surprise your wife at her work dinner, only to watch her lean across the table and kiss another man like she had never kissed you? Hey everyone, my name is Daniel. I'm 38, a senior software engineer at a quiet tech firm in Seattle, the kind of guy who fixes bugs at 2 a.m. so other people can sleep. Sarah and I had been married for 11 years. We had Ethan, 8, who still believed I could fix any broken toy, and Lily, 5, who believed her mother hung the moon. We owned a modest house with a backyard that smelled of wet cedar after every rain. I thought we were the couple other people envied, steady, affectionate, still holding hands in the car sometimes. Sarah, 36, worked in pharmaceutical sales and always came home with stories that made the kids laugh. She was the spark, I was the steady flame. Or at least that's what I told myself every single night when I kissed her forehead before sleep. That Thursday evening the house felt too warm, the radiator clicking like a metronome counting down to something I couldn't name. Sarah stood in front of the hallway mirror adjusting the silver necklace I gave her on our 10th anniversary. The light from the bathroom fell across her collarbones, making her skin look almost luminous. She had chosen the deep green dress I loved, the one that clung just enough. It's an important client dinner, she said, dabbing perfume on her wrists. The scent, something new, expensive, like smoked vanilla and citrus, drifted toward me. They booked that little Italian place downtown Illinois Fiori. Don't wait up, okay? She smiled, but the smile stopped at her eyes. Her fingers lingered on the clasp of the necklace a second too long, a tiny hesitation I would have missed a month ago. I told myself it was nothing. Work stress. New clients. The kids were already in pajamas, Ethan building a Lego spaceship on the living room rug, Lily clutching her stuffed rabbit. The air smelled of tomato soup and crayons. Sarah bent down to kiss them both, her heels clicking on the hardwood, then kissed me quickly on the cheek, lips cool, breath carrying that new perfume. As the front door closed behind her and the taillights of her car swept across the wet driveway, I stood at the window with a strange tightness in my chest. The house felt suddenly too large, too quiet. Why had she looked at her phone right before leaving, the screen brightness turned all the way down? I didn't know it yet, but that client dinner at Il Fiore was about to become the night my entire life caught fire. Daniel entered this story still clinging to the comforting illusion that 11 years of shared routines, children, and small kindnesses had created an unbreakable safety net. The sensory contrast between the warm, familiar house and the cool, perfumed departure of his wife highlights the first fracture between expectation and emerging reality. His rationalizations, work stress, new clients, are classic denial mechanisms that protect the attachment system from immediate threat. Sarah's microbehaviors, hesitation with the necklace, lowered phone brightness, are early leaks of guilt and excitement, but Daniel's love filters them into harmless noise. This opening block establishes the painful gap that will widen. The marriage he believed was his foundation was already hollowed out by secrets he had chosen not to see. The next week settled into a rhythm that felt almost normal on the surface but hummed with wrong notes underneath. Mornings smelled of coffee and peanut butter toast. Ethan would race downstairs with mismatched socks, Lily would demand extra hugs, and Sarah would move through the kitchen like a woman who had somewhere else to be. She started wearing the new perfume every day. The scent clung to the pillows, to the car seats, even to Ethan's hoodie after she hugged him goodbye. When I asked about it, she laughed lightly. Just trying something different. Her laugh had a bright, brittle edge. Phone privacy became an art form. She would angle the screen away when we sat on the couch. Late at night I would hear the soft tap-tap of typing from the bathroom, the door closed, the fan running to cover the sound. If I walked in, the screen went dark instantly. Just answering a client in a different time zone, she would say, voice smooth, eyes not quite meeting mine. I told myself I was being paranoid. Every marriage has seasons. One Saturday she announced another work thing, dinner with the regional manager at the same Italian restaurant. She spent 40 minutes on her hair, something she hadn't done in years. The green dress again. As she left, Lily asked innocently, "Mommy, why does your new friend Ryan always pick the fancy places?" Sarah froze for half a second, then smiled. "Ryan is just a colleague, sweetie." The name landed in my stomach like a stone. I had never heard it before. That night the house smelled of rain and leftover lasagna. I sat on the porch steps after the kids were asleep, the wooden planks cold through my jeans, and replayed Lily's words. A colleague. Nothing more. Yet the perfume, the locked phone, the sudden interest in clothes, all of it circled like crows. I pushed the thoughts down, told myself trust was a choice. But the unease stayed, a low hum beneath every ordinary moment. When Sarah came home after midnight, her cheeks flushed, lips slightly swollen, she slipped into bed and turned away from me. Her breathing never quite settled into the deep rhythm of sleep. I lay awake listening to the rain on the roof, wondering why the woman I loved suddenly felt like a stranger sharing my sheets. Sarah's mistake was believing small lies could remain contained. Each fabricated dinner and perfume deflection added another layer of distance that could never be fully retracted. Daniel's mistake was weaponizing trust as denial, choosing the comfort of, "she would never," over the discomfort of, "what if she already has?" Lily's innocent remark became an unintended catalyst, exposing how children absorb and repeat hidden truths. The lesson emerging here is that secrecy is never neutral. It rewires the emotional atmosphere of a home until even a child can sense the fracture. Daniel is learning, painfully, that ignoring intuitive discomfort is not kindness, it is slow self-betrayal. Suspicion is a quiet thief. It steals sleep first, then appetite, then the ability to look at your own wife without cataloging every micro-movement. I began noticing patterns the way an engineer notices faulty code. Sarah's client dinners always happened on Thursdays. She always chose Il Fiori. Her phone now had a new passcode. The joint credit card statement showed repeated charges at the same restaurant, far more than one person would spend. When I casually asked about the expenses, she said the company reimbursed her. Her smile was perfect. Her eyes were not. One Wednesday night she was typing under the covers again. The blue glow lit her face from below, making her look almost ghostly. I pretended to sleep, but my heart was hammering so loudly I was sure she could hear it. She slipped out of bed at 1:17 a.m., went to the bathroom, and stayed there 20 minutes. When she returned, the phone was face down on her nightstand. I waited until her breathing slowed, then reached for it. The screen was locked, of course. But the faint scent of the new perfume on the pillow felt like evidence. Ethan started having nightmares. He would wake crying that, "Mommy's new friend is taking her away." When I asked Sarah about it, she brushed it off as normal kid imagination. My sister, visiting from Portland, pulled me aside in the garage. "She smells like someone else's cologne when she hugs the kids," she whispered. I laughed it off. Inside, something cracked. The pressure built like a storm that refuses to break. I began driving past Il Fiori on Thursday evenings, telling myself it was coincidence. One night I saw her car in the valet line. My hands shook on the steering wheel. I drove home, poured a whiskey I didn't drink, and stared at the wall until dawn. Every innocent explanation I tried to construct felt thinner than the last. Yet I still hadn't seen anything I couldn't explain away. Not yet. The collapse moved through 3 clear stages: awareness of anomalies, active rationalization, and compulsive surveillance. The point of no return arrived the night Daniel sat outside Il Fiori watching Sarah's car and chose not to walk in. That decision marked the moment suspicion became obsession and love began its quiet mutation into self-preservation. From that night forward, reconciliation would require a honesty Sarah was no longer capable of giving. I became a detective in my own life, hating myself for it. I checked the credit card app at 3 a.m. while Sarah slept. I learned the name of the valet at Il Fiori. I found a deleted reservation confirmation in her email trash, table for 2, 8 p.m., this Thursday. The name on the reservation, Ryan Ellis. My stomach folded in on itself. Thursday arrived. Sarah kissed the kids goodbye with extra tenderness. She wore the green dress again. As she backed out of the driveway, I made a decision that felt both inevitable and shameful. I waited 30 minutes, then drove downtown through the rain. The city lights smeared across the wet windshield like tears. I parked 2 blocks away, heart slamming against my ribs, and walked into Il Fiore for the first time in my life. The restaurant was warm, golden, filled with the low murmur of conversation and the clink of glasses. Candlelight flickered across white tablecloths. I told the hostess I was meeting someone. She smiled and led me toward the back. And then I saw them. Sarah sat at a corner table, candlelight painting her face soft and beautiful. Across from her was a man in a dark suit, Ryan, mid-30s, confident jaw, easy laugh. His hand rested on top of hers on the table. As I watched, he leaned forward and kissed her slowly, openly, the way people kiss when they think no one who matters is watching. Sarah's fingers curled into his hair. The kiss lasted forever and no time at all. The room tilted. The smell of garlic and red wine turned nauseating. My legs moved without permission. I walked straight to their table. Sarah looked up first. Her eyes went wide with pure animal panic. The color drained from her face so fast I thought she might faint. Ryan turned, still smiling, until he saw my expression. The smile died. "Daniel," Sarah's voice cracked. I stood there in my damp coat, rain still dripping from my hair, and felt every year of our marriage collapse into a single moment of candlelight and betrayal. The sight of the kiss triggered a cascade, visceral shock first, then a cold, crystalline clarity that bypassed rage entirely. Daniel's body moved him forward before his mind could intervene, an action born of 12 years of muscle memory that still believed in us. Sarah's panic was raw and unguarded, the first honest emotion she had shown in months. Ryan's frozen smile revealed the casual entitlement of the other man. The moment the kiss ended was the exact second love died and survival instincts took over. We didn't cause a scene. The restaurant staff hovered nervously, but I simply said, "We're leaving," and Sarah rose on unsteady heels. Ryan started to speak. I looked at him once and he closed his mouth. Outside, the rain had turned to mist. Sarah's mascara ran in black rivers down her cheeks. In the car she tried everything: tears, anger, gaslighting. "It's not what you think. You never have time for me anymore. Ryan is just a friend who listens." Then the truth finally spilled out in broken pieces. The affair had been going on for 7 months. It started at a sales conference. He made her feel seen. They had talked about her leaving me. The money on the credit card. Dinners, hotel rooms, gifts she told me were from work. I drove in silence, the wipers the only sound. When we got home I told her to sleep in the guest room. She cried harder than I had ever heard. I felt nothing but a vast, ringing emptiness. The next morning I removed my wedding ring and placed it on the kitchen counter. The metal clicked against granite like a period at the end of a sentence. I told the kids mommy and daddy needed time apart. Ethan cried. Lily asked if Ryan was going to be her new daddy. The question gutted me more than the kiss had. That week I filed for separation. Sarah alternated between rage and desperate pleading. I stayed calm, almost gentle. The man who would have begged her to stay was already gone. The husband who walked into Il Fiore still carried the ghost of the man who once believed love could survive anything. The man who walked out was someone else entirely, quieter, clearer, untethered. The contrast between the candlelit betrayal and the cold morning light of the kitchen revealed how quickly identity can fracture and reform. Sarah's tears moved from genuine grief to performative desperation as she realized the power balance had permanently shifted. Daniel's calm was not indifference, it was the first day of a new emotional architecture built on self-respect instead of hope. 6 months later the divorce was final. I kept the house, Sarah moved into an apartment downtown. The kids split time between us with a schedule we both respected. On my weeks I made pancakes on Saturday mornings while sunlight poured across the kitchen floor. Ethan's Lego towers grew taller. Lily stopped asking about Ryan. I started running at dawn, the cold air burning my lungs clean. I took up photography again, old film camera, the smell of developer in the basement darkroom like coming home to myself. I met friends for beers without checking my phone. I laughed louder. I slept through the night. Sarah still texts sometimes, apologies, memories, small olive branches. I answer politely but never warmly. The love is gone, what remains is a quiet, respectful distance for the sake of our children. Some nights I sit on the back porch with a cup of coffee, the cedars smell thick after rain, and I feel something I never expected, gratitude. Not for the pain, but for the clarity it forced. I learned that trust is not a given, it is a daily choice both people must keep making. When one stops, the other must stop pretending. I am no longer the man who waited in the dark for a wife who was already gone. I am the man who walked into the light of a restaurant and chose to save himself. For the first time in years, my life feels like it truly belongs to me. This story is ultimately about the moment perception catches up with reality. Daniel's blindness was not stupidity but the natural human refusal to dismantle a life built on love. Sarah's betrayal was not sudden evil but the slow accumulation of unmet needs she chose to solve outside the marriage rather than inside it. The restaurant, warm, golden, romantic, became the perfect stage for the coldest truth: intimacy can exist in two places at once until the moment the hidden one is exposed. The universal insight is simple and merciless: we do not lose our marriages in grand explosions. We lose them in small, daily choices to look away, until one day we can no longer afford the luxury of denial. Daniel's empowerment did not come from revenge. It came from finally seeing clearly and choosing to build a life that no longer required him to look away.